Welcome to Guide to IELTS. Writing Task 2 of IELTS requires writing of an essay of at least 250 words in about 40 minutes. There are a variety of question types possible: agree, disagree, advantages, disadvantages, causes, solutions, and many more. One question type that you can get is two opposing statements followed by discuss both views and give your opinion. The target, as always, is to understand the question and write an essay accordingly. Let's look at a few very similar questions, all of which are of discuss both views and give your opinion type. First, some people say that science should be compulsory for all students, others disagree. Second, some people say that science should be compulsory for all students, others, however, say that literature is also important. And third, some people say that science should be compulsory for all students. Others, however, say that literature is more important. All three questions seem very similar, but when you plan the essay and when you write it, especially the conclusion would be slightly different. The first one is science should be compulsory or not. It doesn't compare science to any other subject. The second and third questions have just one difference, also in second and more in third. But even this minor change means you would need to alter your essay. This is why the first step in writing should always be read and understand the question. The format we'll follow while writing this is: first, introduction; second, supporting arguments for the viewpoint for which we have more points; third, points in favor of the other viewpoint; and fourth, conclusion, where we answer the question, that is, give our opinion as asked in the question. These four sections of the essay would usually translate into 4 or 5 paragraphs. The second section, where we write about the opinion we favor, may be divided into 2 paragraphs. Always keep in mind that the formats, this one or any other, are just to help you write a well-structured essay. It is certainly not the only correct format. There are many different ways of answering one question. The steps to follow while writing the essay: first, read and understand the question. Do not underestimate the importance of this step. Many a candidate has messed up their writing by not giving enough attention to the question and by starting to write after just glancing at it. Second, plan the answer. Again, a vital part of the writing process. However easy or difficult the question may seem to be, even if you have written something similar before, plan your writing. Third, think of the vocabulary to be used. This is also part of the planning. This would include synonyms for certain words in the question along with other related words and phrases. Fourth point, write. And lastly, fifth, revise. The essay question that we'll be working on in this video is: some people believe that students should be taught international news as a subject at school. Others feel that this would be a waste of valuable school time. Discuss both views and give your opinion. First step, read the question, understand the question. Second step, plan your answer. So, we'll plan the vocabulary and the points. So, we'll start with planning of the essay. Whenever there is a question which is discuss both views or give your opinion or advantages, disadvantages or agree, disagree, I prefer to make a table. On one side, I write one viewpoint, on the other viewpoint. It gives clarity to which side has more points and it helps write a better conclusion. So on one side, we'll write why teaching of international news is good. On the other side, why it could be considered a waste of time. So on the left side, where we are writing why international news should be taught in schools. First point, it gives awareness to children about what is happening across the world, and this awareness helps them understand what opportunities they can explore across the world. Next, through news from other countries, they can get to know about the culture, the customs of other countries. This again will in turn lead to tolerance towards other cultures. It would make traveling easy. It would make communication easy. Next point, it would erase barriers. After all, these students are the future. So if they understand other cultures, if they are more tolerant towards other cultures, it could lead to a more peaceful world in future. So as you can see, the planning is also not just 1 to 3 points. At times when we write this leads to this, it can mean usage of different kind of words such as therefore, thus, phrases such as a result. So proper planning also helps us use better vocabulary. Now let's move to the other side. Why teaching of international news could be considered a waste of time. First, it could lead to academic burden, and second, there could be some negative news which should be avoided. Now we come to the vocabulary part. Now the vocabulary that you use in an essay can be divided into two broad categories: general vocabulary and topic specific vocabulary. General vocabulary would include words and phrases such as because, although, however, moreover, therefore, as a result, according to me, in my opinion. It would also include synonyms for words that are commonly used in IELTS questions such as advantages, disadvantages, some, people. These words and phrases should be on your tips. The vocabulary you need to think about during the planning stage of your essay writing is the topic specific vocabulary. So in this case, there are certain education related words. First, students. This is a difficult word to find synonyms for. One synonym that we can use is pupils. Beyond this, students can refer to people of any age group, really young ones, even university students. But in this case, because it is about school, we can change it to school-going students or even school-going children. Also, we keep in mind that if we are referring to students who are in higher classes, we can use words such as teenagers or adolescents. But do understand that these words cannot replace the word students in every context. Next, taught. Change it to teach, teaching, even that is considered to be good. Whenever there is teach, we can use learn. Students should be taught international news. Students should learn international news. For learn, we have another synonym, acquire knowledge of. Then we have international news, foreign news, news from abroad. Now let's talk about just the word news. There is no other word which can perfectly replace this word, but then we work around it. Instead of news, we can write information about, get, acquire, or obtain knowledge of, or learn about what is happening in other countries, nations, regions of the world. Next, happening, incidents, affairs. So there are different words which we can use. Even though they are not perfect synonyms in every context, in this context they can replace these words. So international could also be other countries, nations or regions of the world. Another part of the question is it should be taught as a subject. So as a subject can be replaced with part of school curriculum or academic curriculum, course, discipline. Waste can be replaced by wasteful or useless, valuable, precious. We start writing now. The first paragraph is introduction. The easiest way to write the first paragraph is just to paraphrase the question. So here we'll change some people to certain individuals, believe to think, international news to knowledge of overseas affairs, as a subject at school to school curriculum, should be to ought to be, and we'll also reverse the two statements. So in the question it says that international news should be taught first and then it would be waste of valuable time later. When we write it in the reverse format. So certain individuals think that knowledge of overseas affairs would be wasteful for the school-going children, while others are of the opinion that it ought to be part of school curriculum. There are logical supporting arguments for both viewpoints, which will be discussed in the forthcoming paragraphs. Instead of this last statement, we could also just write, both opinions have valid arguments in their favor. A better way of writing the beginning would be if we can start with a general statement and then connect it to the question. We are trying two different ways here. One is simply writing, staying up to date with the current affairs, national and international, is essential for holistic development of students of all age groups. Instead of this, we could also write another beginning, which is, information is necessary for one and all because it helps us to thrive in this world. Schools are responsible for preparing students for the real world. Because of this, certain individuals think that teaching of foreign news should be a compulsory part of school curriculum. However, not everyone agrees to this, as they think that knowledge of overseas affairs would be wasteful for school-going children. Although there may be a couple of reasons to support the latter viewpoint, I strongly believe that the former is a better option. So we have tried 2-3 different types of beginnings. You can see all of them on your screen, and you can also see this on our website, guide2ielts.com. The link to this particular essay is in the description of this video. Now we start with the second paragraph. The first sentence of the second paragraph is what we call the topic sentence, which tells what information we'll include in this paragraph. So we're keeping it simple. There are a number of reasons to support teaching of international news in schools. The first point that we have in our planning is to make students aware of what is happening across the globe. So that's what we'll write. We'll start with firstly, this would make pupils aware about what is happening across the globe. In continuation to this point, we had written that through this, children will become aware of the opportunities that are available abroad. And we'll use the connector not only but also while making this sentence. This would not only increase their knowledge, but it could also help them know about the many opportunities available in countries other than their own. On to the second point about culture and custom, which would then lead to tolerance, ease of travel, and ease of communication. So we mention all of these and notice the connectors that we use. Secondly, pupils get to know about the culture, customs, and lifestyle of different nations across the world. Therefore, this would lead to more tolerance towards diverse cultures. Also, traveling would be easy as one can fit in better if they know about the living style of a place. What is more, communication would be a piece of cake among people of different regions if they are aware of one another's local news. So we used easy ones, and the second time we used an idiom, a piece of cake, means the same thing. The last point we had was about better future, easing of tensions. Last but not the least, the information about other places would make a person more accepting of others. This would ease tensions across the world, as these youngsters are the future of the world. On to the third paragraph now, in which we'll write about why international news should not be taught. Now this we are going to do in two different ways. One, we'll keep it simple and then we'll have a simple conclusion. After that, we'll try for a little difficult and better way of writing the same thing. Let's keep it simple first. On the other hand, some people say that learning foreign news can result in additional academic burden on students. The second point was about negative news. So, moreover, another argument against teaching of foreign news is that sometimes it is very negative. Last paragraph, conclusion. In conclusion, since there are more benefits of acquiring knowledge of what is happening around the world, I'm of the opinion that international news should be taught in schools. So now this is one way of handling the question. Write arguments in favor of one side, then arguments in favor of the other side, and finally conclude by saying that because there are more supporting arguments of this viewpoint, I support this one. But there are better ways of writing this. One very good way is, if we write supporting arguments of one side, the side that we support, we'll also write supporting arguments of the other side, but we'll try to give solution to that problem so that it's a stronger essay of the other viewpoint. So in this case, the first problem was it'll lead to academic burden. So after that, I'd add, however, I think if it is taught in an interesting way, it can be made fun. After that, the second point I'd write would be about foreign news being negative sometimes, followed by, I do agree this could be a problem, so teachers should ensure that young, especially primary school children, are not told about such news. And then in the conclusion also, I would write about the conditions of teaching international news. So in conclusion, I'm of the opinion that international news should be taught in schools. Next sentence, however, it should be under the guidance of teachers to ensure that it does not add to the burden of students, and it should be age appropriate. Even the simpler essay that we have written is approximately 260 to 70 words, and it can easily get you a 7 or 7.5 band. These are screenshots of the two essays from our website guide2ielts.com, in which many of the synonyms that we have used have been highlighted. Before we end, we'll explain a couple of things that we have used in these essays. First is former and latter. Now, former and latter are used when we have talked about two things, and former refers to the first one and latter refers to the second one. So if I am saying that I like both coffee and tea, but I prefer the former, so which means I prefer coffee. And if I say I prefer the latter, it means I prefer tea. Similarly, when referring to two different viewpoints or two different opinions, we can list out the two opinions and then say that I agree with the former or I agree with the latter, just as we have done in our sample essay. Another phrase that we have used is holistic development. Holistic development basically refers to overall development, and it can be used in multiple essays whenever we are talking about education. And if we say, is sports important? Yes, it is important for holistic development. Is study of arts important? Yes, it is important for holistic development. So holistic development basically refers to an overall development, which would include different subjects, physical education, emotional development. That's it from from us for now. If you found this video useful, do like, share, and comment. Subscribe to our channel. Spread the word. If there's any particular writing question that you'd like us to discuss, or if you have any question about anything else related to IELTS, mention it in the comments below and we'll try to answer it in our forthcoming videos.